Hello and welcome to another edition of Mustang Basketball with Brad Bigler. I'm your host, Kelly Loft, as we talk Mustang men's basketball with the head coach of the Mustangs, Brad Bigler. SMSU, a split last weekend on the road, losing to Bemidji State, but rebounding with the victory against Minnesota Duluth. We'll talk about those games, take a look at the highlights, and preview this week's game versus Minnesota State Mankato at the RA facility. And joining us on the show, as always, is the head coach, Brad Bigler. Mustangs keeping their postseason hopes alive with that split last weekend. 2 victories would have clinched a spot in the NSIC tournament, but now, Brad, it comes down to one game. If the Mustangs do happen to lose, there are other ways to get into the tournament. But you know right now, which is the best way to have it, if you win, you're in the NSIC tournament. You'll be the number 8 seed and more than likely have to play Minnesota State again. But you love to have that opportunity. And as I mentioned to start off the show, you win, you're in.
And that's what we've always wanted, a situation where we control our own destiny, and that's what our guys have been able to do, and now we have to take advantage of it.
Well, the Mustangs last weekend go on the road to Bemidji State last Friday in Bemidji. Of course, Mustangs coming off a nice weekend sweep the previous weekend against Concordia, St. Paul, and St. Cloud State. You had some momentum, Coach, but that momentum came to a screeching halt on Friday against Bemidji State, a team that was similar to the Mustangs this year, a very talented squad, but just couldn't close out some games, and they proved it when they're clicking on all cylinders offensively. They're one of the a very good basketball team, and despite only 9 victories overall, they're a very talented squad, and they showed it Friday in beating the Mustangs 84-66.
And Bemidji is a team that can put up a lot of points. They're a game that was a situation going into that game. We knew that they're a team that there's going to be some tough matchups, and with their ability to shoot the basketball and score from the inside, they're a team that can put up 80 points pretty quickly.
Well, the Mustangs struggled out of the gate, scored just 4 points in that game against Bemidji State last Friday, and trailed 37-18 at halftime. Bemidji shoots 54%. They were 6 of 8 from three-point range in that first half, and just not the start you wanted. You trail by 23 points in the second half, and then go on a 13-0 run, which did show a lot of character by your squad to come back into it. And there were still 8.5 minutes to go, and you're down by 10. You're thinking right there, if we get a stop or two, this is a whole new ball game.
And when you put out that much effort to make that 13-0 run, we just kind of ran out of gas. Didn't have enough to really take it down to the single digits. Give them credit. I think Ron said then stepped back and made 3 straight threes, which extended the game back out. And it was pretty much a ball game at that point. As
I mentioned, the Mustangs scored just 18 points in the first half, shoot 32%, but do come back in the second half, and Bernard Birch capped off the 13-0 run with a steal and a basket, getting to within 10, but as Coach mentioned, Lance Rogstad, who finished the game with 25 points, he hit 3 consecutive three-pointers, and that put the lead back up near 20 points, and the Mustangs were not able to recover. SMSU did shoot an amazing 64% in the second half to cut back into that deficit, but not able to overcome, and the Mustangs lose 84-66. We'll see some highlights later, but the next night you go to Minnesota Duluth, and knowing now that you probably going to have to at least win that game and probably go 2-0 to finish the regular season to get into the conference tournament. And again, we have not won a game in conference play on the road. In Minnesota Duluth the night before took Mankato down to the wire, and you knew it would be a tough place, but the guys responded and earned a very satisfying victory, to say the least, on the road.
And I thought it started off with Scott Rail and Jordan Miller's performance early in the ball game. Jordan was aggressive and started off hot. I think he had about 9 points to start the ball game, and it seemed like Scott Rail got every offensive rebound that was in his area. And when those two guys are playing at that level, it's easy for the other guys to feed off them. And I thought we got going early and just continue to use that momentum throughout the second half.
Yeah, the Mustangs opened up a 10-point lead in the first half against the Bulldogs, but UMD, very similar to Friday night against Bemidji State, they were red hot from long range as well. They made 7 three-pointers in the first half, and at that point, Coach, you're probably saying, what can we do to stop this three-point shooting? And is that somewhat of a concern of the shots that you're giving up, or is it the type of defense, or is it guys from other teams just making shots?
Well, Bemidji was more of a scramble situation. We were doubling down on their posts. They did a good job of kicking, making an extra pass. Versus Duluth, I thought it was guys stepping up and just knocking down tough shots. There was a few different times where they got a matchup, but to be able to still step back from about 22 feet and knock down that three, I mean, that's a tough shot, and give credit to Duluth.
Yeah, you mentioned Jordan Miller had a great start. He did 9 of the first 11 points. He hit some tough jump shots. The Mustangs had the lead, but trail at halftime despite shooting 50%, 44-43 in the second half, though. You really locked down the Bulldogs defensively. Their top 2 scorers in the first half combined for just 3 points in the second half, and you used a couple of big runs, and next thing you know, 7 minutes into the half, you're up double digits and really never look back.
And in that second half, I do think our experience, with Scott Rail and Taylor Hughesby, those guys really stepped up in the second half, and I thought it was their toughness and their their leadership that was the difference in that ball game. Just at those little possessions where you get those little offensive rebounds or loose balls or even those blocks. I think Scott got a block in that half, and they just made the difference in the game, I thought, in the second half.
Well, you talked about the veteran play of Scott Rail, but Taylor Hughesby continued his fine play, and 6 of 7 shooting coming off the bench. He finishes with a double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds, had a nice two-hand jam during the second half run, and good to see Taylor making some plays again down the stretch here as his career comes to an end.
And a lot of that in the second half came down to patience. I thought the guys were patient. We executed well on that dunk. Jordan Miller, they doubled off a ball screen, and he dropped it down to Taylor, and I think Taylor surprised all of us with that, going up and getting that dunk. But no, it was all in all, I thought it was a great effort by both of them that night, and a lot of it starts with them. Their toughness, their physicality. They're the guys on the offensive boards who can make us a better basketball team. Well,
18 points in the game for Scott Rail. He also had 9 rebounds. The Mustangs also 14 points for Trent Carlson at 4 3-pointers, and had a couple other good looks as well. Could have scored some more, but a season high for Trent, and that was great to see because, again, if it's not just Jordan hitting threes, if it is only Jordan hitting threes, or maybe not as talented offensively, but he may really open up the inside with his three-point shooting.
And that's the case when Jordan and Trent are knocking down shots from the perimeter. That does open up the floor, and that's where Taylor and Scott have the ability to go more one-on-one rather than teams doubling down on them. And when Trent's knocking down shots like that, it makes us a better basketball team.
Well, some other numbers from the ball game against UMD. Mustangs a 40-28 rebound advantage, and the impressive thing about that, Coach, the night prior you only had 20 total rebounds. You were out rebounded by Bemidji 27-20, but got 17 boards in this contest, which led to 19 second chance points. 11 for Jordan Miller. That's what he finished up scoring, and again Trent Carlson had 14. Mustangs shoot 50% in both halves and shoot very well and get the victory to go to 12-13 overall and 9-12 in the NSIC, and overall a pretty good effort by a lot of guys, and William Giddings made some plays for you in that ball game, hitting a three-pointer, and you're getting some guys to step up to make some plays that you need here to make a run late in this season.
And I thought Bernard Birch, I'm going to add him into the mix too. I thought his second half performance was good. There was a couple of shot clock situations where we went flat, nothing complex, where he broke his defender down, either scored or dished off to a guy to make a play. And, throw in not only Will Giddings, I thought Lavion West on the weekend was pretty good, especially on Saturday night. Just his overall ball control, shot selection, decision-making, and his defensive effort has improved throughout the year.
We are watching Mustang basketball with Brad Bigler. The Mustangs split last weekend, losing to Bemidji State, but came back and beat Minnesota Duluth. So the Mustangs now in sole possession of 8th place in the 14-team NSIC, and there's a logjam here. 4 or 5 teams battling for that 8th spot. It's going to come down to the last weekend, but we do know if the Mustangs win, they are in the conference tournament, in which anything can happen. As we saw last year, Mustangs advanced all the way to the NSIC tournament championship game before losing in the final seconds. Well, we talked about the Bemidji State game. Now let's take a look at the highlights, and then we'll talk about the ball game against Minnesota Duluth as well. But our highlights start off with last Friday's road game at Bemidji State. Mustangs in the gold uniforms, going right to left here in this first half. And again, the Mustangs just struggled out of the gate, Coach, just 32% shooting in the opening half.
And early on, it was us just taking some difficult shots. As you'll see there, Scott Rail got a pass from Matt Zager, high percentage shot, put it in. You see here Taylor Hughesby with the finish.
And Taylor scored early for the Mustangs, but just 4 points in the first about 11 minutes or so. Mustangs trailed 19-4, but They do start to come back in the second half, in the first half, got it down to 11 points, but again, Bemidji State 54% shooting. Here's Matt Zager spinning, and nice take to the basket for Zager, who finished with 5 points, 3 steals, and 3 assists.
See Bernard Birch getting out in a transition, knocking down a shot, followed by a quick ball screen. They do a quick show, but don't step over, and he gets in the paint and finishes.
Continuing on in these first half of action, skip pass, Birch over to Trent Carlson, who hits the 3. That was 2 3-pointers in the contest for Trent Carlson. You see both of those right there. Now we go to the second half, and Scott Rail led the Mustangs, 15 points, 7 rebounds, and there's an offensive board and a putback.
And I thought that was a play that got us going. That was a play that gave us some energy, gave us a little bit of confidence, and from there we kind of went on that little bit of a run to make it a ball game. You'll see here Will Giddings followed with the dunk. But Bemidji at the end of the day was, their shooting performance was outstanding, and it was just something we couldn't overcome. And
not often do we shoot 64% in a half and get outshot. The Beavers shot 65%, but here the Mustangs making their run. Jordan Miller, again, a 13-0 run for the Mustangs, and a great take by Birch, fires it over to Miller, and the Mustangs starting to creep back into this game, and you'll see a couple plays here where the Mustangs will score, and then Bernard Birch will get a steal and an and one. But again, the Beavers went about 5 minutes without scoring and started to play back on their heels. Matt Zager launches a 3, drills it. He had his lone 3 of the night, was that particular shot. There's the patience again by SMSU, and into the senior, Scott Rail with, again, 15 points. Here's the steal by Birch, and this caps it off here. He'll get the ball back and take it to the hoop and get an and one. And this cuts it to a 10-point game and lots of time left in the contest.
And this was, that's a tough take. And one with the bigger guy going over to contest. Bernard with a nice finish.
Beavers hit a 3. Mustangs came back, got a hoop to be down 11, but back-to-back 3-pointers by Bemidji State kind of sealed the Mustangs' fate. Here the Mustangs in transition. Jordan Miller thinks about the 3. Hands it off to West, who gets the basket. Lavion with 5 points. Jordan Miller with 2 assists in the game. Mustangs had 12 assists, but 12 turnovers. And here's a steal. Mustangs trying to come back. But as you mentioned, Coach, you're down so many points, and you spent a 13-0 run, and you're going to get the one spurt, but if you're the opponent, you just got to make sure and stop that run, and eventually you'll get the victory. And that's what the Beavers did on Friday night, winning 84-66 over the Mustangs. And again, Lance Rogstad, 25 points for BSU, and they hit 14 of 19 3-point attempts in the game. That was their season high for 3-pointers. They had not hit double figures all season, and they hit 14 in the game. Give them credit. They knocked down some shots, and including some tough ones. And
part of it was, our defense. They made us scramble the entire night, so they did have some open looks. But to shoot that high of a percentage is, that's a good performance, and got to give them a lot of credit. And you do that, and of course now the Mustangs head on the bus Friday night, head over to Minnesota Duluth, or head to Duluth to take on the Bulldogs on Saturday, and the Mustangs responded and really have had some success. Duluth always the kind of the power in the NSIC and the old NIC in the 70s and 80s, and we've really had their number here in the last 3 or 4 years. Have won now 7 straight in the series, and they haven't won at home, have the Bulldogs, against SMSU since 2004. And as you mentioned, we played a great second half, limited the Bulldogs to 29% shooting in the second half, and the Mustangs outscored UMD 36-23, and most of those points were in the last 2 minutes by UMD. They scored, I think, 7 straight to end the game, but a great performance by the Mustangs, and they win 79-67 over the Bulldogs. Let's take a look at the highlights from last week's game in UMD. The Mustangs here in the opening half in the white jerseys, going right to left, and a couple of air balls early on, but the Mustangs were there for the old boards and putbacks. You'll see here Bernard Birch gets a nice tip off to the races. And here Jordan Miller just stepping up, knocking down that 3 in transition. One of his early baskets in the ball game. Yep, again, 9 points for Jordan Miller and some tough hit. That was a 2. He scored 9 of the first 11 points for the Mustangs. And again, this shot somehow goes in. You're thinking, boy, he might be in for a special night. But the Mustangs teammates all stepped up and
Again, the Mustangs 5 of 10 from three-point range in the opening half. And there's a fadeaway jumper for Miller. And now his teammates off the end out, Lavion West. Nice play and a jump shot.
And I thought, the biggest difference between Friday and Saturday night was just our energy level on the defensive end. On the basketball, we had good energy. We were in a better stance and communicating better. And for a team to be able to do that on back-to-back nights, I mean, that did show some toughness to be able to step up and do that, especially after the disappointing loss versus Bemidji.
And, of course, UMD also playing for their playoff life. And there's Taylor Huseby, a spin move. He tried to draw the charge, did the Bulldogs. And here, a lot of pump fakes by UMD, and the Mustangs kind of figured it out after a while. The freshman Urban tried to do that quite a bit. And then in transition, William Giddings drills the three.
And that's one of the things that Will brings to the team. He's more of an offensive threat, a guy who can step out and shoot, a guy who can put the ball on the floor, and he's improving. I mean, every day you go against Scott Rail in practice, you're going to become a better rebounder.
In transition, 3-on-1, Birch to Rail. Does not get the basket, but does go to the free throw line and makes 6 of 8 in the contest as Rail. Here's Taylor Huseby nearly falling down, but keeping his balance and scores. You saw that one offensive rebound after a three coach, and that just demoralizes a team. And the Mustangs with 17 O-boards in the game. Nick Smith from 17 feet hits that jump shot. His one basket of the game. And then Trent Carlson, and here's Jordan Miller with the basketball, finding Carlson for a three. Trent 4 of 8 from downtown. Still in the first half.
And Trent knocked him down in a few different ways. He came off some screens. Right here you see off a kick out. He also in some sets where he was spotting up. So we were able to find him in the right time at the right place.
You'll see a lot of highlights here in this second half. Mustangs outscored again the Bulldogs by 13. Jumped out to a big lead, double digits in the second half, and we'll see some dunks and whatnot, but some just great ball movement. Here's Taylor Huseby just staying with it and doesn't panic, resets the offense. The Mustangs get a good look at the hoop.
And this is the patience that we had in the second half. You'll see Matt Zager finishing, maybe even got fouled, but finishing with contact. That's good to see. That's something that we haven't done most of the year. But to be able to then see Taylor Huseby following up an offensive rebound, and like you said, those are plays that are they're hard to come back from.
Great behind the back pass, Zager to the Mustangs. I think that was Lavion West with the dunk. Great pass to keep that alive, and you're kind of rolling right now. Watch this spin move. Senior going against freshman, big time play by Huseby going baseline. And Bernard Birch driving and somehow gets that ball to go in. One of the prettier drives we've seen this season.
And that's one of those shot clock plays where a guy just steps out and makes a play, a flat look, and Bernard goes and makes a play.
There's 2 shots, a couple of old boards. Mustangs took advantage of some missed shots, grabbed the boards and buried it. Scott Rail from the baseline. 18 points and 9 rebounds for the senior. Here he finds a nice pass, finds West. Couldn't get the 3, but right there was Rail for the rebound and another basket for SMSU.
And that's where Scott and Taylor's just their overall physicality, experience, whatever you want to say, just making the difference in that second half. It felt like they got every offensive rebound.
Mustangs a 40-28 rebound advantage against the Bulldogs. Mustangs have been out-rebounded just 4 times this season. Great look. Huseby to Trent Carlson and one. That capped off a big rally for the Mustangs. Couldn't complete the 3-point play, but coming up here you'll see some great passes here. And there's Bernard Birch. Benefit of a great look by Jordan Miller. And you'll see a dunk here coming up for Taylor Huseby soon as well.
Showing some better patience. Another example, Scott Rail just making the play, getting another offensive rebound, just wearing Duluth down in that second half.
Here's the dunk, wide open. Huseby goes up, slams it with 2. Screen and roll, and great job by Huseby to get open. Here's West finding Huseby, easy layup. And the Mustangs cruise to the victory, a much-needed win. It snapped an 11-game road losing streak. The Mustangs won the opener this season at Northwest Missouri, and then you close out with your last regular season road game with a win at UMD. So the Mustangs now, as we mentioned, 12-13 overall and 12 in the NSIC. We'll wrap up the conference season at home on Saturday, a special night, senior night. It's an 8 o'clock start against Minnesota State Mankato, a team that's already clinched a share of the conference championship. If they win, they'll win it outright. They're the #1 team in the region, nationally ranked team. So, a lot to play for this weekend, Coach. And before we talk about that, it is senior night. We've got 3 seniors playing their last home game at the RA facility, and they're all unique players to the program. But Chris Hagan, Taylor Huseby, Scott Rail are all special players for this program.
And with both Scott and Taylor, they've been in this program a long time. They're guys that when they first came in, they redshirted. They earned their time. Both of them played very minimal as freshmen, and then they earned their way through sophomore. And then to think that Scott Rail is a 1,000-point scorer is a big accomplishment, and I got to give him a lot of credit. Taylor Huseby is a guy who will not only be missed on the basketball floor, but I believe in the community. I think he's made a big difference in the community, and a guy that has a lot of fans out there. And Chris Sagan's a guy who stepped on the program last year, more of a practice guy, but a guy that you know what, we're very thankful to have. He brings it on a daily basis. He does it the right way, and he's a good person.
Yeah, and that'll be honored prior to the game on Saturday against the Minnesota State. And as Coach mentioned, 1,000-point scorer for Scott Rail, just the 16th player in school history to reach that mark. And as Coach mentioned, didn't play a lot as a freshman, and then more as a sophomore. That Elite 8 season, what a great run that was. So those 3 players during their careers have been instrumental here for the SMSU basketball program. Well, now we had to, again, look ahead to Saturday's game versus the Mavericks, a team that has really had great success in recent years. A ball game earlier this year in Mankato, very tight game. You actually led with about 4.5 or 5 minutes to go by a point. Mankato did go on to win the game, but they're a very talented squad. They've got possibly the player of the year in the NSIC in Jefferson Mason. They've got some other senior players, and you could tell and listen to their coaching staff. They're probably their best team they've had here, and maybe during Coach Margenthaler's coaching tenure at Minnesota State.
And a lot of it starts with Jefferson Mason. His athleticism on both ends of the floor allow them to do so many different things. And he's a guy who's a Division I transfer, a guy who got an additional year or whatever, and a guy who's taking advantage of it. He's no question an MVP candidate, and a guy who at the end of the day is going to put up points, however defense you throw at him. I mean, he's going to be able to do some things. And from there, it goes to Marcus Hill. Marcus Hill's a senior who's been in the program a long time. He's also paid his dues, and he's been, when they win those big ball games, it's usually him at the end of the games making plays with the ball in his hands, whether it's him scoring a big basket or it's him setting up another teammate.
Yeah, and again, as we mentioned, there's some games earlier in the day. We couldn't know before tip-off if the Mustangs are in the conference tournament or not, but all you could say, it's a very tough opponent to play, but you get to play at home and a chance to win, you're in the tournament, and that's pretty much all you can ask for. And the guys know that all week. Just prepare and have a good week of practice and get ready for Saturday.
And it should be a great atmosphere. I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun. I mean, this is college basketball at its best. And fortunately, we're at home here in Marshall, and hopefully the crowd comes out and supports us as they will. And it's one of those things in the recruiting trail. We sell this type of atmosphere. We sell our home crowd. We're thankful for the big people, or for the big crowds, and for all the support, and we're looking forward to seeing them on Saturday night.
Again, it'll be an 8 o'clock start at the RA facility, senior night at the RA, and I hope the Mustangs can send off the seniors with a victory and continue their season at the NSIC Sanford Health Conference Tournament Championship, which will begin the next Wednesday. And the Mustangs, if they win, will play at the #1 seed, which more than likely will probably be Minnesota State Mankato. So thanks for watching this week's episode of Mustang Basketball with Brad Bigler. For the head coach, Brad Bigler, I'm Kelly Loft. Special thanks to Jess Nelson here at Studio One in Marshall, and thank you for watching here at smsumustangs.com and at Studio One. We appreciate all your support. Until next time, go Mustangs.